Hey, where are you? Stop messing around. Everything's gone from the house. What's going on? Victor's voice crackled through my phone, panic edging his words. I took a deep breath, savoring the feeling of finally being free. I packed my bags and left, I replied calmly, running my fingers along the smooth countertop of my new kitchen. What? Why would you do that? His voice rose an octave, disbelief replacing the anger. This doesn't make any sense. I smiled to myself, feeling stronger than I had in years. Well, we're getting a divorce, so it only makes sense for me to go. I've moved on, Victor. There was a moment of stunned silence before he sputtered. Divorce? What are you talking about? I never agreed to this. Yes, I've already filed the papers, I said firmly, no trace of hesitation in my voice. The decision has been made. It's over. My name is Marie. I'm 32, and I work as a real estate owner, though I used to be a caregiver. I've been married to Victor for 5 years. At first, things were fine, nothing extraordinary but manageable. I believed we could build something together, but over time, cracks started forming like hairline fractures in a foundation, slowly spreading until the structure wasn't safe anymore. 2 years ago, Victor quit his job to start a business. I supported him completely, not just emotionally, but financially too. My heart swelled with pride watching him pursue his dreams, believing in his vision with every fiber of my being. But despite his prestigious private university degree, his business never took off. Instead, it drained our savings like water through cupped hands. I felt the weight of our financial burden crushing me as I was left covering all the bills: rent, groceries, utilities, while he struggled and made excuses. Each month I watched our bank account dwindle while my anxiety soared. If finances were the only issue, maybe we could have worked things out. I kept telling myself that partnerships have ups and downs, that this was just a rough patch, but the real problem was his family. Victor's mother Eleanor and sister Sophia still lived in their family home, and every visit felt like entering enemy territory with no armor. My stomach would knot up before we even arrived. They criticized everything I did, from my cooking to my career choices, made me feel unwelcome with their cold stares, and constantly belittled my profession as a caregiver. Taking care of old people? That's what you went to college for? Eleanor would say with a dismissive wave. It wasn't just occasional remarks. It was a relentless stream of judgment that wore me down like water-eroding stone. Despite having our own apartment just 10 minutes away, Victor insisted we visit them constantly, sometimes 3 or 4 times a week. At first, I thought it was part of being a supportive wife. That family connections were important to nurture. I smiled through gritted teeth and tried to win their approval. But the more I went, the worse their insults became, cutting deeper each time. When I finally started standing up for myself, saying things like, "I'd appreciate if you didn't speak to me that way," the situation only escalated. Sophia would roll her eyes dramatically while Eleanor would gasp as if I'd committed some terrible social offense. And then there was the financial aspect that turned my stomach every time. "Marie, I need $500 for a friend's birthday gift," Sophia demanded one day, scrolling through her phone without even looking up. "Can you lend me the money?" I blinked, stunned by the amount. $500? What are you buying, a yacht? That's more than I make in 2 shifts of caregiving. Sophia's head snapped up, her eyes narrowing. "You're so cheap, Marie. Doesn't Victor support you? You can't even do this?" "Small thing for your sister-in-law. It's just money." I stared at her, my blood running cold. A bitter laugh caught in my throat. Support me? My hands were calloused from working double shifts. My back ached constantly from lifting patients, while Victor hadn't contributed a cent to our household in over a year. And as for Sophia, why didn't she get a job instead of relying on her mother? At 27, she spent her days shopping and posting on social media while I worked myself to exhaustion. Before I could respond, Victor jumped in, his voice sharp with warning. "Marie, just give her the $500. It's not a big deal." Eleanor beamed with pride, reaching over to pat his hand. "Victor, you're such a good son, always taking care of family. That's how I raised you." Then Sophia, looking like she'd been denied her favorite toy, added with a pout, "Can you give me $300 too? I need to buy something important." Her definition of important was likely another designer handbag to photograph for her social media feed. Victor didn't even hesitate, not for a single second. "Of course. Marie has $300 in her purse. Just take it." He pointed to my bag sitting on the counter, as if my hard-earned money from caring for elderly patients was his to distribute however he pleased. I felt a knot forming in my throat as I watched Sophia dig through my purse without permission. And then, as if that wasn't bad enough, Victor leaned back in his chair and casually said, "Thanks to me, we have a place to live. I'm the one who found our apartment." I just stared at him, completely dumbfounded, the injustice of it burning in my chest. Found the apartment? I was the one who paid the deposit, the rent, the utilities, and every other expense while he contributed nothing but complaints. Later in the car, I couldn't hold it in anymore. My hands gripped the steering wheel so tightly my knuckles turned white. Why do you act like some kind of provider when you don't even pay the bills? Do you have any idea how hard I work for that money? He shrugged, staring out the window with indifference that cut me to the core. I have my pride as the eldest son. My family looks up to me. That set off another argument that lasted the entire drive home. If you give them money once, they'll keep asking for more, I warned, my voice rising with frustration. They're treating me like an ATM, not family. But making my mom happy isn't a bad thing, he defended, his tone suggesting I was being unreasonable. Family comes first, Marie. You know that. I felt tears of frustration threatening to spill. Victor, we can't afford this. We're barely getting by, and you haven't contributed a cent in over a year. We need to save. My caregiving salary can only stretch so far. From that moment on, all we did was fight. The arguments became our new language, resentment, our shared currency. And then one day, it hit me like a physical blow. Why was I even doing this? Why was I putting up with all of it? The doctor's words from my recent checkup echoed in my mind. Your blood pressure is concerning for someone your age. Stress can kill, Marie. You need to make some changes. The final straw came when Victor casually said, "Hey, let's go to my mom's house tonight. She's making dinner." I didn't even look up from the real estate magazine I was reading. My newest secret passion, studying property values, investment strategies, plotting my escape. Go by yourself. I'm not feeling well. The truth was, I couldn't bear another night of subtle insults and financial demands. His expression darkened, eyes narrowing dangerously. A wife is supposed to go with her husband. That's how marriage works. I shot him a look, feeling something inside me finally snap. Oh, really? Then why don't you ever come with me when I visit my parents? I've asked you at least 20 times this year. He clicked his tongue in annoyance, grabbed his keys, and stormed out, slamming the door behind him with such force that the pictures rattled on the walls. Honestly, that weekend was the most peaceful I'd had in years. No overbearing mother-in-law criticizing my every move. No entitled sister-in-law eyeing my wallet. Just peace, quiet, freedom. For the first time in ages, I had the space to think clearly without Victor's negativity clouding my judgment. The silence in the apartment wasn't lonely, it was healing. I spent the next 2 days focusing on something that actually mattered. My dream of owning my own home. Not just any home, but an investment property that could secure my future. I researched listings, ordered brochures, and spent hours envisioning how I'd decorate it. I called my parents, both experienced property owners, for advice. A space that was mine, free from judgment. Free from people who drained me without appreciation. My heart raced with excitement at the possibilities. By the time Victor finally came home Sunday night, it felt like a weight had been lifted from my shoulders. I was lighter, stronger, and more certain than ever about what I needed to do. "Oh, you're back," I greeted him calmly, my voice steady despite the nervous flutter in my stomach. He ignored me, tossing his keys on the counter and sulking like a child denied a toy. It was pathetic to watch. My chest tightened with a mixture of pity and disgust. Shouldn't a grown man know how to act like an adult? At 30 years old, he still behaved like a teenager. I didn't engage further. I simply turned and started making dinner, my movements automatic, while my mind raced, silently planning my next move. The knife chopped vegetables with satisfying precision as I organized my thoughts. I was done waiting. It was time to take control of my life before my health suffered any further. Then out of nowhere he spoke, his voice cutting through the silence like a knife. "You've been way too defiant lately. I don't like your attitude." I turned to him, wooden spoon in hand, taken aback by his choice of words. "Defiant? Just because I refused to visit your mom and sister? Is having boundaries now considered defiance?" "Yes," he replied, as if it were the most natural thing in the world, leaning against the counter with his arms crossed. "A wife should obey her husband. That's how it works. If you can't do that, maybe we should get a divorce." "Divorce?" I blinked, caught off guard by how casually he tossed out the word. After all our arguments, I didn't expect him to throw that option on the table so easily. My heart raced, but not from fear, from possibility. He leaned back, crossing his arms over his chest, an infuriating smirk playing on his lips. His confidence was so misplaced it would have been comical if it wasn't so frustrating. "You don't want me to leave, do you?" He paused, clearly expecting me to panic, maybe even burst into tears and beg him to stay. "Well, I'm really mad at you. I've already signed my part of the divorce papers. If you defy me again, I'll file them. Think carefully about what you stand to lose." With that, he turned and walked away, smugly adding over his shoulder, "I'm taking a shower. Hurry up with dinner. I'm starving." The moment the water started running, I couldn't help but smile to myself, my heart suddenly light. "Oh, Victor, you have no idea what you've just done. You just handed me the key to my freedom on a silver platter." I went into the kitchen and began preparing dinner, but this time there was a lightness in my movements, a quiet joy bubbling up inside me that was hard to contain. My hands trembled slightly, not from fear but from excitement. For years I had walked on eggshells trying to keep the peace, hoping Victor would change, that he would become the partner I deserved. But this, his arrogant ultimatum, this was the out I had been waiting for. From that day forward, I became laser-focused on saving every dollar I could. I picked up extra shifts at the care facility, ignoring the ache in my back and the fatigue that threatened to overwhelm me. Every extra penny went straight into my personal account, a separate one Victor knew nothing about. It was my silent countdown to the life I had dreamed of. I lived frugally, bringing lunch from home, avoiding unnecessary expenses, shopping sales, keeping my excitement hidden behind a calm, composed exterior, even as my heart raced with anticipation. Victor never noticed these changes. He was too wrapped up in his own sense of power, convinced I would crumble under his threat, that I would beg him to stay. He continued his daily routine of complaining about his failed business ventures while making no effort to find actual work. I don't think he ever imagined I might be planning my escape, building my own future right under his nose. Months passed and my plan unfolded seamlessly. I didn't just want to leave. I wanted to leave with something that symbolized my independence, my value. So I bought a house. Not just any house, but a beautiful 3-bedroom property in a quiet neighborhood. A real home, entirely mine, free from his influence. I signed the papers with shaking hands, tears of joy threatening to spill as the realtor handed me the keys. "Congratulations," she said. "You're a homeowner now." The weight of those words filled me with indescribable pride. The only step left was moving out, and I would do it on my own terms with dignity and purpose. I started packing, but not all at once, slowly, carefully, one box at a time so Victor wouldn't notice. I sent my belongings to my parents' house under the guise of decluttering. "We have too much stuff," I told him casually. "I'm donating some things." My parents knew everything and had been my unwavering support throughout this process, offering both emotional comfort and practical advice. My father, a retired police officer, helped me understand my legal rights. Each step forward lightened the burden I had been carrying for so long. When the time finally came, Victor was away for the weekend visiting his family. It was the perfect opportunity, as if the universe itself was signaling it was time to go. That weekend, I packed up the last of my things, my heart pounding with nervous energy. I took one final look around the apartment that had never really felt like mine, walked out the door and never looked back. That place hadn't been a home, it had been a cage with invisible bars. Now I was free. My new home was everything I had envisioned, bright, spacious, peaceful, with large windows that let in streams of natural light. The walls still smelled of new paint, and for the first time in years, I felt like I could truly breathe without my chest tightening with anxiety. I took my time unpacking, savoring every moment of making the space my own. This wasn't just a house, it was my victory. Every corner represented a future without fear or manipulation, a life reclaimed. The quiet was comforting rather than lonely, and an overwhelming sense of relief washed over me as I sat on my new couch looking around at my achievement. I didn't have to answer to him anymore. I didn't have to brace myself for his moods or deal with his controlling nature. I was in control now, the captain of my own ship. That evening, as I placed the final touches around my home, arranging family photos on the mantel with care, my phone buzzed. Victor's name flashed across the screen like a warning. A small smirk played on my lips. I knew exactly why he was calling. "Hey, where are you?" His voice was sharp, demanding as if he still had a right to an answer. I could hear the edge of panic beneath his attempt at control. "Where do you think?" I replied, my tone intentionally vague. letting him sit in the mystery for a moment. My heart was racing, but not from fear, from the thrill of finally standing my ground. Don't play games with me. The apartment is empty. What the hell is going on? His voice grew louder, more desperate with each word. I let out a soft chuckle, surprising myself with my own confidence. I packed my bags and left. Simple as that. What? Why? I don't understand. His voice wavered, panic fully creeping in now, replacing his usual arrogance. I smiled to myself, running my hand along the smooth countertop of my new kitchen. Well, we're getting a divorce, so it only makes sense for me to go. I've moved into my own place. A long silence followed, so complete I could hear his breathing grow ragged. When he finally spoke, his voice cracked with disbelief. Divorced? You actually want a divorce? Yes, I confirmed, a quiet pride in my tone that I couldn't hide if I tried. I filed the papers earlier today. As of now, we're complete strangers. Just as you threatened. No, I don't accept this. His words came out in a choked fury that once would have intimidated me. Now they just sounded pathetic. You can't just leave. That's not how this works. Satisfaction surged through me, warm and validating. But you were the one who suggested we could get divorced any time. You said it yourself. And as a businessman, shouldn't you take responsibility for your words? Isn't that what you always say about negotiations? I didn't wait for his response. The conversation was over. With that, everything was over. I hung up, my heart racing not from fear but from sheer relief. It was done. The final chapter had been written, and I had written it myself, in my own hand, with my own strength. That night, I slept more soundly than I had in years, wrapped in fresh sheets in my new bedroom. I hadn't realized how much weight I had been carrying until it was gone, how tension had become my constant companion. Waking up in my own home for the first time felt like the reward I had long deserved, sunshine streaming through curtains I had chosen myself. No more stress, no more arguments, no more pretending everything was fine when it wasn't. No more dealing with his family, who treated me like an ATM while questioning my worth. It was just me finally and completely free to build the life I wanted. The morning silence wasn't oppressive, it was peaceful, broken only by birds singing outside my window. The next morning felt surreal, like I was floating in a beautiful dream. I had invited my parents over for the first time since moving in, eager to share this fresh start with the people who had always believed in me. I spent the morning cooking, humming to myself, as the delicious aromas of my mother's recipes filled the kitchen. It was a small, personal way to celebrate a moment I knew I'd cherish forever. When my parents arrived, my mom gasped, her hands flying to her mouth as she took in the space. "This is incredible, Marie," she said, eyes wide with admiration and pride. "You did this all on your own." My dad smiled, his expression full of the quiet pride that had always been his way. "You did good, kid. Real good." He squeezed my shoulder, the simple gesture conveying everything words couldn't. We toasted to new beginnings, glasses of sparkling cider clinking together in the sunlight, streaming through my new dining room windows. It wasn't just a celebration of my home, it was a celebration of everything I had fought for. My independence, my peace, my future. Laughter filled the room, a warmth I hadn't felt in years spreading through me. We talked about everything and nothing, simply enjoying the moment, knowing I was finally where I was meant to be. Then the doorbell rang, the harsh sound cutting through our celebration. I frowned, confused and instantly on edge. Who could that be? No one knew my address, except my parents and the essential services I'd set up. Curiosity led me to the intercom, my heart beginning to race. When I checked the screen, my stomach twisted into a tight knot. Standing outside were Victor, Eleanor, and Sophia, all wearing expressions of entitlement that made my blood run cold. "What are you doing here?" I asked, disbelief lacing my words. "How did you find this address?" Victor smirked like he owned the place, standing there with his usual arrogance, as if he had every right to be here. His confidence was audacious considering the circumstances, his stance wide, as if already claiming territory. "We're moving in," he said as casually as if he were asking for a glass of water. His tone matter-of-fact, despite the absurdity of his statement. I blinked, struggling to process what I had just heard, my mind refusing to accept the words. "Excuse me?" I asked, unable to mask the disbelief in my voice. My hands trembled slightly as I gripped the intercom. Eleanor, of course, chimed in, wearing the same smug expression she always had when she thought she was getting her way. "Your place is big enough for all of us." she stated matter-of-factly as if this was the most logical thing in the world, looking around appraisingly at what she could see of the property. And Harold is in the hospital. When he's discharged, he'll be living here too. Now open the door, Marie. Don't be difficult. It was clear she didn't even grasp the absurdity of her request. To her, my home, my achievement, my sanctuary was simply theirs for the taking. Another resource to exploit. I stared at the screen, trying to wrap my mind around the sheer audacity of the situation. Then, almost laughing in shock, I finally found my voice. Are you out of your minds? Why would I let you in? This is my property. Get off my property now before I call the police. My voice grew stronger with each word. Eleanor's eyes widened in outrage as if I had just insulted her deepest values. How dare you? You're being so rude. What's yours is ours. We're family. Open this door right now. Her entitlement rang through her voice. The same manipulative tone she had probably used her whole life to get her way. The only difference? This time, someone was standing up to her. I took a deep breath, steadying myself against the wall. I had fought too hard for my freedom to let them trample over it again. I have no idea what you're talking about. In case you forgot, I'm single now, I said, keeping my voice firm, making it clear just how absurd this entire situation was. This is my house. My name is on the deed. Only my name. Her face twisted in confusion, genuine bewilderment replacing her usual smugness. She looked genuinely confused, like she couldn't grasp what I was saying, what was happening. What do you mean? She demanded, her tone growing more aggressive by the second. Victor, what is she talking about? I raised an eyebrow, my patience wearing thin, my resolve strengthening. Didn't your son tell you we're divorced? We're complete strangers now. I owe none of you anything. Saying those words felt empowering, like claiming part of myself that had been suppressed for too long. I wasn't backing down this time, not from her, not from any of them. A tense silence filled the air. Eleanor and Sophia turned to Victor, their eyes demanding an explanation, their expressions shifting from confidence to confusion. He stammered, searching for words, his facade of control crumbling before their eyes. But it didn't matter. I had already made up my mind. None of you are welcome here, I said firmly, cutting through the tension like a knife through butter. Please leave my property immediately. I didn't wait for a response. I pressed the button, shutting off the intercom with a satisfying click. Conversation over. Boundaries established. Victor reacted immediately, pounding on the door, his fists slamming against the wood in frustration, each thud making me flinch but not waver. Open up, we need to talk, you can't do this to me. His panic was evident, his voice cracking, but I stood firm. The power was in my hands now. Then something outside caught my eye, flashing red and blue lights reflecting off my window like a promise. My heart skipped a beat. I looked out and saw a police car pulling up in front of my house. Officers stepping out with purpose. For the first time in years, I felt a wave of pure, unadulterated relief wash over me. I stepped back as officers approached, their presence cutting through the chaos Victor and his family were creating. Within moments they had him restrained, cuffed, and ready to be taken away, his protests falling on deaf ears. I watched from my window, feeling the tension drain from my body like poison being drawn from a wound. This was it, the moment I had been waiting for. Finally peace. Finally freedom. Finally justice. Why are you doing this to me? Victor shouted, his tone desperate yet empty, like a plea no one cared to answer. His face contorted with anger and disbelief, unable to process that his actions had consequences. Eleanor and Sophia stood frozen on my lawn, their shock apparent as their carefully constructed reality crumbled around them. The officers didn't arrest them, but they firmly directed them away from my property, making it clear they were no longer welcome. I watched as they shuffled to their car, throwing glances back at the house they thought they could claim. I stepped outside once Victor was safely in the police car, the fresh air filling my lungs as I tried to process everything that had just unfolded. Then I noticed my dad standing off to the side, calm as always, arms crossed, watching with quiet confidence, his former police training evident in his stance. He gave me a peace sign, grinning like this was just another day. In situations like this, always call the police, he said casually, like he was teaching me the basics of self-preservation. Never try to handle it yourself. I laughed, a mix of relief and gratitude swelling in my chest until it threatened to overflow. I love you, Dad, I said sincerely, my voice catching slightly. He nodded, putting his arm around my shoulders and giving me a quick squeeze. I know, kiddo. I love you too. Now let's go finish our breakfast before it gets cold. We went back inside, picking up our celebration with a renewed energy. The tension had lifted, replaced by the clinking of glasses and genuine laughter. Mom asked more questions about my plans for the house. Dad joked about installing better security cameras. It felt like a true new beginning, like I could finally breathe without weight on my chest. Later that night, I learned the full extent of Victor's actions. He had been stalking me, following me from my new job at the property management company, waiting until I got home, planning when to make his move. My blood ran cold thinking about his eyes on me when I thought I was free. When he admitted it to the police, they didn't take it lightly. They made it clear if he ever showed up again, they would arrest him immediately. But I wasn't worried anymore. I knew Victor too well behind his bravado. He was a coward at heart, and after today, he wouldn't dare risk another confrontation with law enforcement. Just to be safe, I filed for a restraining order the very next day, not just against him but his entire family. It was time to cut all ties for good, to cauterize the wound so it could finally heal. As for Victor, his life quickly fell apart after the divorce. His business, which had depended heavily on my financial support and practical management skills, began to collapse completely. Without my money to keep them afloat, his family struggled to pay their bills and maintain their lifestyle. With Harold still in the hospital racking up medical bills, their situation only got worse with each passing month. Eventually, they had no choice but to sell their house, the family home Eleanor had been so proud of. Karma had finally caught up with them, and while I took no pleasure in anyone's suffering, I couldn't deny a small sense of satisfaction that actions had consequences. For me, life is better than ever. My property management company is thriving, and I've added 2 more houses to my investment portfolio. Inviting my parents to move in was an easy decision, one I never second-guessed. Having them here filled my home with a warmth and security I hadn't realized I was missing during those lonely years with Victor. They never stopped reminding me how proud they were, how lucky they felt to have me as their daughter. That kind of love and affirmation made every struggle worth it. Every tear shed a price worth paying for this happiness. Now we're happy, content, and at peace in a way I never thought possible. The house feels different from any place I've ever lived, alive with laughter, shared meals, and the small moments that make each day special. The dining room fills with stories over dinner, the living room with comfortable silence as we read together in the evenings. I found my way back to where I truly belong, where love and support turn these walls and roof into a real home. I know challenges will come as my parents get older, but I'm ready for them with my caregiving background and open heart. I want to be there for them just as they were for me, offering not just physical care but the same emotional support they've always given me. Whether it's managing their appointments, making sure they have everything they need, or simply sitting with them when they feel lonely, I'll be their steady presence, their rock. I'll listen to their stories with patience and give them the time and attention they deserve, treasuring each memory they share. And when life gets tough, I'll be the one to lift them up, just like they did for me when I was trapped in a marriage that was slowly crushing my spirit. This is my chance to show them how much they mean to me, how deeply I appreciate everything they've done. Every moment matters, the stories, the laughter, the quiet afternoons together. Time moves fast, but I'm determined to cherish every second we have together. For the first time in a long time, I feel truly at home, my body relaxed, my mind at peace. And nothing, no one will ever take that away from me again. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the story, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to our channel. See you next time.